access with joins, with inner join we will get, right? So if there is a match on department ID, that means that department has an employee. And we saw this example here, right? So if we consider this query, we will get the department ID from employees, and then we will filter out the records. So when I run this query, I get 3 departments: HR, engineering, finance, which means there is at least one employee for these particular departments, right? And that's the question. But to do any such scenarios wherein you just have to, check if something exists or not in a table, at least one employee, because a department might have lakhs of employees, right? You don't want to scan all the 1 lakh employees, because that will be costly, right? If you're joining on department ID 201, the 201 will join with 1,201 entries in employee table, and it will fetch how many records as the output? 1 lakh records, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
I will explain it to you in a different way. First, let's see this example, how we can write this query using a correlated subquery. So it's like select dname from department where in select okay. So what I did here, I compared this employee dot depart where department ID not exists. Sorry for that. So where exist, what we want to check? We want to check if there is any employee in employee table, right, who has the department ID matching to any department ID from department table. So in a select part, it's not necessary that you need to select a column. Even if I just give a 1 and this value matches, right, means any department ID from department matches with any department ID from employee table, this condition will be true. So whatever you select, columns you give in the select clause doesn't matter actually. So we generally give select 1 because whatever we select here makes no relevance for our outer query, right? So outer query is only dependent on this join. In case of subquery, we will get a result, and this result is compared with this column from department table and we fetch the output. And one more thing we discussed, if I run this inner query individually, it runs fine. But if I run this inner query individually, it will not run because it says it cannot find department or department ID. Why it cannot find? Oh, because first thing is there is nothing called as department. My bad. But let's run it again. Oh, entire query ran. Sorry. Again, I was shocked. That told something else. So if I run this subquery, it still gives me error. It says I cannot find department or department ID because it is part of the outer query, right? Department is not part of this bracket. That table is defined here. So this is how correlated subquery works. So here you cannot just run the inner query individually, but in case of normal subqueries, we can do this, right? So if I run this query now, I get the same results, HR, engineering, finance. If I run this query now, I get the same results. So subquery, correlated subquery, inner join will give me the same result, right? So where I have the inner join query, it is left join, this one, right? You see, engineering, finance, and HR. So same question we did in 3 different ways. First using joins, second using subqueries, and the third one using correlated subqueries.